basic problem we have had in our country in looking at urban areas is that it has been dominated by spatial planning. We have planned for space and not for people. City planning has been dominated by civil engineers who plan for the minutest amenities in terms of spatial characteristics, gardens, parks, what they think the future should look like. Even today, the town and country planning departments of state governments, the central government, the DDAs, all these agencies are hooked onto spatial planning. And even some of the new efforts that they're making are only, reworking the same model. It's in this context that something like the JNNURM came. The JNNURM was an effort to look at cities from the national level because there was an increasing urbanization, and so there needed to be a national response. First of all, it focused on a certain number of cities. So, in fact, if you really look at resource allocation that used to happen in a very, very ineffective way of spreading the resources very thin across Indian cities, even that kind of equity was done away with because JNNURM meant that the state governments which would focus on, what they felt was important in certain towns, they were also forced to bring counterpart funds from the state to meet the JNNURM cities that were chosen. What will go in favor of the cities, as I see it, is that the political power of the cities will further increase with the increasing numbers. But this depends on whether those people are looked at differently from the way we look at now. This property right, I see, would gradually become an opportunity for leveraging other rights. Because A, it will provide the person with an identity, an address, so the person can get a ration card, send his child to school, get a service from an Anganwadi, whatever that government's services meant for them. Unless the sharper focus has to be on the inequalities that create the exclusion problem. At the Government of India level, this is the first time that the Government of India says, look, property rights to the poor are important. You vest them with property rights, and we will incentivize that process by giving you 50% money for improving the housing stock and for improving infrastructure. The fundamental difference it tries to make is to understand the concept of cityness differently. The verticals that they've chosen to have the maximum potential are very interesting because one is construction, one is healthcare. In the construction sector, there is a building construction workers cess. But you just had the Commonwealth experience of the Commonwealth Games in Delhi. You had the buildings coming up and the workers, crawling around and living in hovels and all that. The only person or the only institution that can provide support to labor during a period of construction is the construction industry itself. So I think we need to get all these things cleared up, or else you will have status quo. The point is the money is idling away when people are, so the opportunity in fact to skill them in better construction, all that is lost. Give them better habitat, give their children education, all that is lost in this conventional understanding of the antagonism between labor and capital and creating a paternalistic state in between which holds the funds and does not get that moved out into actual use. This is just connecting a few dots in policy. One is the opportunity provided by the RAY of giving property rights also in a manner by which some portion of the land is unlocked and you go in for vertical construction, because what we are giving is property rights, not land rights. So to that extent, some amount of urban land will be unlocked, and whether we can use that for encouraging social development investment in terms of educational facilities, health facilities, because today if you really look at what constrains Indian capital from investing in education and health in a big way, especially in higher education, good hospitals, medical colleges, is a shortage of space, is a shortage of land. So there is an opportunity here provided by connecting the RFI with social development investment and not just look at real estate. Usually when you say unlocking property, what you have in mind is real estate developers. But there's no reason why we can't move to a framework of conceiving of social development zones where this land is made available for institutions of education, healthcare, medical education, skill training centers. For example, Dharavi. Dharavi has actually a lot of skill development units inside it, and manufacturing units, and that's why it's a different kind of understanding of a slum location. But when the real estate developer looks at it, he looks at it purely from the point of view of just one thing of land. In the 11th plan, we tried to plan for new institutions, central universities. But our understanding was that it should go to all the places which don't have central universities. So it went to all, it's sitting in now places like Koraput and all that. But it is not been able to attract faculty for the simple reason the faculty does not go there because of the absence of, say, basic social infrastructure. The children have to study, their wives will have to find, spouses will have to find jobs, all kinds of things. So as a result of this, that effort at equity, though of course it's a full marks to them for trying at equity, regional equity, but it's not really worked. Instead of that, maybe a scholarship scheme that brings people, students from there and makes them study in better locations would have maybe better, who knows. But anyway, the point is, if what I'm trying to advance, and this is coming as in a newspaper a couple of days, we want to see how much traction the idea has. Whether we can conceive of social development zones in the big cities to crowd in educational and health facilities. It's again an opportunity that is opened up by Rajiv Avesojuna. So it can look at, so it becomes an interesting way to think in terms of inclusions which are more than just property rights. Beginning with property rights, you perhaps might add more.